Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to talk about the top 10 reasons you are not losing weight. And after that, I want to speak to, is food addiction real or not? And I'm going to give you my perspective. And certainly there is some discussion in the scientific community about the actual reality of food addiction, but I'm going to share with you my thoughts on that. So, first of all, let's talk about the top 10 reasons people really struggle to lose weight. And you know me, I got to get my notes out. 2 seconds here. Here we go. All right. Number one, I understand, shedding pounds can really feel like it's an uphill battle, and you just feel like you're trying to track calories and you're struggling, you're exercising every day and still the pounds will not budge. So, if that's the case, let me go over again the top 10 reasons you may be struggling. Number one is unrealistic expectations. So, first of all, if someone is trying to lose 10 pounds in a week, that could be a recipe for disencouragement or discouragement. There we go, discouragement. The reason I say that, if you weigh, let's say, I've certainly seen people lose 10 pounds in a week. I've seen people lose 50 pounds in a month. But these are folks who are morbidly obese, starting at 400 and 500 pounds. We move them to a healthier diet, get them moving their body a little bit. You'll see dramatic weight loss, but there will be a point that slows down and plateaus, and you have to do different strategies. But for folks who need to lose, let's say 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, you really need to be very careful about understanding that this is not going to be overnight. We don't gain weight overnight typically. If you notice that you've gained 5 to 10 pounds in a period of 2 to 3 days, something else is going on, kidneys, heart, things like that. So when we talk about weight loss, I really want you to pay attention to understand that healthy weight loss, fat loss, not water loss, because sometimes when people go on, let's say, fasting, or they do a very low carbohydrate diet, like a keto type diet, they may say, oh my goodness, I lost so much weight in 1 week or a few days. What they've lost is water weight, right? And then they're not only losing, also potentially losing muscle mass. So lots of things to talk about that. But again, just really want people to understand, aim to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. That is a healthy weight loss. You're more likely to maintain your muscle mass, which we need to preserve. And that, because that is your metabolic furnace, right? So when you think about weight loss, say, want to preserve muscle as much as possible and lose fat, right? So there's an art to this, but trying to set realistic expectations and know that some weeks you might see it fluctuate up, but the next week it'll fluctuate down. Now, what if you lose 2 to 3 pounds a week? That'll be okay too. Again, it'll vary. Women are going to lose a little bit slower than men. Guess what? They're got more muscles. So I hear that a lot. It's a big complaint. But number one, let's set realistic expectations, be patient with yourself, and move forward in a very sustainable way. Okay, number two, big one. Calorie miscalculations. You have to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose weight. There is no way around that. Yes, there are some nuances to it, but at the end of the day, you have to be in a caloric deficit. Now, I love to say what isn't measured is not managed. And so if you are not measuring your calories, if you're struggling to lose weight, now if you're just switching to a healthier diet and you're losing weight, great, keep that up. But if you're found that you hit a plateau and you're struggling, we need to be paying attention to calories. And that means weighing and measuring your food for a period of time, right? It doesn't mean you have to do it forever, but you're going to find and learn very quickly how much food is. And it's a really interesting lesson to see how much we underestimate the calories of certain foods. So even on a whole food plant-based diet, and I've seen these patients, I take care of patients who come to me because they have not been able to lose all the weight on a whole food plant-based diet. And it's because they're underestimating the calories that they are consuming. Yes, that is absolutely true on a whole food plant-based diet. So please understand it depends on the person, how much muscle they have, their age, their gender, medications may be also hindering weight loss. lots of things to play here. But at the end of the day, we do need to be in a caloric deficit. It doesn't mean you need to be in a significantly huge caloric deficit. That is not healthy either. But we do want to pay attention to calories if you're struggling. And you can use apps like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal to get started. But do weigh and measure your food. If you go out, do the best you can to estimate. But yes, calorie miscalculations. Next, number 3, sneaky calorie sources, right? So beware of hidden foods that seem healthy, like salad dressings. So this might be where I have a discussion about patients about oils. Now, oils can be utilized, I think, certain healthy oils like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, for people who are already healthy and they are not trying to lose weight. However, if you are trying to lose weight and you're trying to count calories, 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories of liquid fat, right? This is very easily absorbed by the body, stored away for energy. It is going to be harder to lose weight when you're getting that much caloric punch in such a small amount of food, and it's not going to help satiate you. Now, again, if you want to make room in your diet for healthy oils and that needs to be part of your diet, that's fine. But we just need to take that into account. I don't use oil in my cooking, and I try to avoid oil. One, I just don't feel well when I consume oils. And at this age, I don't need extra calories. So just beware. There's other things is sugary drinks. So people who consume their daily Starbucks, that's an extra 300, 400 calories. And if you're a woman and you're trying to remain in a caloric deficit, just one of those sugary drinks that you slurp down in less than 30 minutes is going to be a shocker to your system. And again, these are very quickly absorbed. It can affect your glucose levels and insulin, all sorts of stuff. But sugary drinks is another one. And processed food snacks. So some people think, oh, this is healthy, or maybe it's a little granola bar or a trail mix. If you're consuming that regularly in large amounts because you're like snacking all day because you're like, oh, I'm a little bit hungry. You think you're hungry. We'll get to this in a minute. That can be another huge area of caloric intake. For me, it's pecans. I love pecans. I could eat literally, I'm pretty sure a pound of pecans a day, but I can't afford those calories. So be mindful of what you're consuming. And so really just read labels carefully and try to instead opt for unprocessed foods. Maybe it's an apple or a banana, a mango, a whole mango, a sumo orange has been my thing lately. I'm only eating 1 or 2 of those a day as my snack. And also, I'd also mention dried fruit can be quite a shocker, stick shock. What is that called when you're looking for a brand new car? It's sticker shock. Yeah. So it could be label shock, right? Because if you look at the calories, let's say of 1 medjool date, I think that's around 70 calories, right? But who just pops 1 medjool date? No, those are like 3 or 4 going down this gullet. So that would be where I would say you want to pay attention to is really pay attention to the dried fruit component. And I could easily consume an entire bag of dried mangoes. So again, just be careful with the dried fruit. Next is going to be inconsistent exercise. When you look at the research, of course, you cannot out exercise a bad diet. That's for sure. But where does exercise come into play? Number one, it is going to be utilizing more calories. But what they found in studies is that exercise helps you maintain weight loss. So we really want to be consistent in our weight loss efforts by incorporating exercise. It will help rev up your metabolic engine. You're going to find that you feel better, you sleep better. So it's going to be really synergistic to all the other things in your life that you're going to be doing to help you lose weight. So try to aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. So that's going to be where you'll be able to finish a sentence, but you might need to take a little bit of a breath to finish a sentence, right? You shouldn't be unable to speak. That would be probably high intensity, but especially for women who are looking to lose weight, what they found in research is that moderate intensity exercise more days of the week than not are going to be helpful. You could certainly incorporate vigorous exercise. That's going to be great for your VO2 max, which tells me your heart, cardiovascular fitness. And it also help with HRV or heart rate variability. Again, talk about those in other videos, but inconsistent exercise. Even if you can just get started with 5 minutes a day of a walk, that is a great start. And I've told the story that I had a patient that started with her exercise journey started with coming home from work, opening the door of her car, walking to the end of the block and back, into the driveway and back, which led to walking around the block, which led to walking 2 to 3 miles, which led to a 60-pound weight loss and reversing her diabetes. There you go. That's how you start small. Stay consistent. Be patient with yourself. Be forgiving and gracious, and understand it's a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I know you've heard this, but I'm just going to keep telling you because sometimes we got to hear the message multiple times to get it through. All right, next is a big one. And I think for me is kind of my thing I have to pay attention to is mindless eating, right? So if you're watching television or doom scrolling through on social media, you could be eating regularly. Or if you're working while you're eating and you're scarfing down much more food than you probably would have done if you would have sat down in a quiet setting, turned off all technology, and really just ate slowly and very mindfully. So distracted eating can lead to overconsumption in so many ways. So you really maybe want to practice what we call mindful focus eating, right? So this is really slowing down. Sometimes I tell patients, try utilizing the other hand. So if you're right-handed, use your left hand to consume the food. And that might be helpful to slow you down and just think about the food, the textures, the smells, and just honestly, just think about the food. Be present in the moment of enjoying the meal itself or enjoying the company that you're with in real life. Have people put away their phones during meal times, and that will lead not only to more mindful eating, but a much more enjoyable eating experience. You're going to find you're probably going to eat less because you're not eating so quickly. It allows the stomach to expand and send messages up to the brain and say, hey, we've got calories, we're feeling good. Let's bring down, ratchet down the hunger hormone, get everything moving in that direction. So mindless eating. Next is emotional eating. And so many people will turn to food when they are looking for comfort because they're stressed or sad or bored, lonely. So there can be these emotional triggers, and this will lead to my discussion here in a minute around food addiction and understanding that eating can be a coping mechanism that is misplaced and can be detrimental, right? Leading to being overweight or obese and insulin resistance and diabetes and elevated cholesterol, increased risk of so many chronic diseases. So the emotional eating piece is something that I speak to patients a lot. That's why I created the Psychology of Weight Loss course. And because I really want to help people understand the mental component of why we're eating, when we're stressed, of when we're bored or anxious, or any number of reasons. It's very nuanced per person, but there are some general guidelines that you can do to kind of understand what's going on in your own mind and overcome them, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. Next is underlying medical conditions, right? So things like hypothyroidism, PCOS, insulin resistance, that can make, weight loss more challenging. There might be medications that you're taking that are weight promoting. So there's actually quite a few diabetic medications that are weight promoting, meaning that you take them and they will help you gain weight. And guess what? That makes the diabetes worse, which means you're going to need more medications. There are hypertension medications. There are certain medications for mental illness that may be weight promoting. So you might want to speak to your doctor about, are any of your medications weight promoting? And is there any alternatives to those medications if you require them? So it's a conversation and something you should be aware of. Next is sleep deprivation. We spend a third of our lives asleep. That should tell us it's an important thing. So it shouldn't be at the top of your list to deprive yourself of sleep when you're busy. Sleep makes you more efficient and will make your day much more enjoyable. So think about sleep as plugging into the wall socket and recharging to make your day even better, right? Don't drag it in your day into the evening, and then you're going to set yourself up for a rough day the next day, and then that just catapults into a rough week. Please, please pay attention to your sleep. If you're struggling to sleep, I've been asked some questions in the comments about how to get better sleep. Oh, which reminds me, I keep being asked. I should tell you guys, please subscribe to the channel wherever you're listening and share this video with someone you might think would be helpful. I forgot to do that. Sorry. Please subscribe. I hope you found it helpful. Anyway, moving on. The sleep deprivation. Should we be getting 7 to 8 hours sleep? Some patients, I've seen they do really well in 6.5 hours, and others need like 8.5 hours. So remember, 7 to 8 hours is a recommendation, a general recommendation where we should be aiming for. But depending on your age, your gender, your physical activity, all sorts of things, that may vary per person. And if you're struggling with your sleep and you're hitting this perimenopausal age, 45 to, late 50s, there can be some really interesting hormonal things going on in the brain without your estrogen. HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, or menopausal hormone therapy, which is now referred to, or MHT, can be very, very helpful, guys. And the research is in that this can be done very safely. There's different medications. When you look at the prior research where HRT just literally dropped off a cliff and was not prescribed, dramatic shifts in prescriptions in the early 2000s. The research was, how should I say this, reported in certain medications utilized, that it highlighted some things to keep in mind. But if you look at the more recent data, and they've reevaluated that data, and it's so important that you understand the majority of women can take menopausal hormone therapy safely. The route of administration is important. And again, timing is important. So as far as when is someone actually started on hormone therapy. So again, this is a conversation you should be having with your physician. If they're adamant that you shouldn't be on it and you want to continue that discussion, please look for a second opinion, because this is very, very important. My thoughts on some people ask, well, what is bioidentical hormones? Is that better? Now, bioidentical hormones refer to the hormones that are created that are just like the hormones that we make, our ovaries make, estradiol and progesterone. And these can be FDA regulated. They come in patches, creams, different things like that. And progesterone come in a pill, the micronized. It's really important to understand. I personally do not recommend that someone go to a compounding pharmacy to have these specialized hormone makeup. I'd rather utilize something that is regulated. I understand exactly what they're getting because it's FDA regulated, versus a compounding pharmacy. I have no idea if my patient is actually getting what they're supposed to be getting. I don't know what they're using. They may say one thing and be using something else, but I'd rather use an FDA regulated prescription. And there's definitely ways to do that for bioidentical hormones. So I will be doing a menopause workshop, part of the Healing Kitchen, next month. But anyway, I really wanted to speak to that and highlight that, because sleep is one of the number one menopausal symptoms that I hear about patients speak about. It can also go, you have not only that, but of course the hot flashes, mood changes, you'll changes in your lipids, you'll get joint pains, some interesting symptoms. So we'll dive into that more next month. But next on, lack of protein. Okay, why am I saying this? Protein will keep you satiated. And have I seen this in a plant-based diet? Yes. Is it very common? Not really so much, but I will say I attract women. I attract many times older women. Maybe their appetite isn't as great, in the sense of, if they're eating a lot of low calorie, high fibrous foods such as vegetables and fruits, which of course I want them eating, but they're neglecting the legumes and the whole grains for whatever reasons. Maybe they heard some guru saying you need to eat a pound of vegetables first. And then I'm like, you eat a pound of vegetables, it's going to be really hard to get enough protein. So that is when I would say, yes, there are certainly labs that you could be measuring. And again, depending on the person, sometimes the symptoms. Um, Again, it's a nuanced discussion, but aim for 1 gram of protein per kilogram minimally per day. So that means 1 gram of protein per 2.2 pounds of body weight per day. Then you should be good to go, especially if you're over 65. Ongoing question. Next, giving up too easily. That's number 10. Giving up too easily. People like, well, it's been 2 weeks and I've only lost 2 pounds. Okay, that's great. Keep going, right? Why are we giving up so easily? Why are we going on to the next shiny object? Obviously, that's is working. Keep on going, right? You don't jump off the ship just because the wind is pushing you off course. You just look at the data and you steer back to course, right? If you're struggling to know what's the course adjustment, that's when you bring in the professionals. Someone like myself, a dietitian, a physical trainer that's well versed in nutrition, lots of different ways you can get back on the right track. So understand again, like I said before, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Top 10 reasons again. Let me go over unrealistic expectations, calorie miscalculations, sneaky calorie sources, inconsistent exercise, mindless eating, emotional eating, which we're going to talk about food addiction next, underlying medical conditions, sleep deprivations, lack of protein, and giving up too easily. Now, question, is food addiction real? Yes, food addiction is real. It's a complex issue, right? It's really characterized by a few different things. One, you feel like you have a loss of eating, right? You're overeating, even despite the negative consequences. You've been told you need to cut back on calories to lose weight because you have diabetes or you have high blood pressure or you have high cholesterol, whatever those may be, or heart failure, kidney failure, doesn't matter, whatever that is, people will continue because there has been some changes. It's very similar to substance abuse addictions. So if you're struggling with food addiction and you're finding yourself eating out of comfort and loneliness, or you're not even sure what hunger feels like anymore, here's a few things we can do. I have 5 steps for you to consider. One is just acknowledge it, right? And accept it and don't judge yourself. It's okay. This is not your fault. We live in a very weird environment, this modern environment that food companies literally create. They spend millions of dollars bringing in food scientists to make food high calories, low nutritional value, and highly addictive. So you eat more of it and buy more. This is the environment that we live in. So our human brains were not made for this environment. So, but the brain is just doing what the brain does. The brain's like, whoo, that tastes good. Let's eat more of it because tomorrow I may not eat. Well, there's always going to be food to eat. If you, again, I speak in generalities of the typical, you know, American culture. I'm not speaking to the entire population of the world. I understand there are places that people don't get enough food and calories, but for the majority of the obese Americans, this is exactly what's happening. They're overeating because the food is made to make you want more and you just can't figure it out. And then you're dealing with stress in this constant stress of our environment. You feel hopeless, and we've created unhealthy food relationships. So craziness. So first of all, just acknowledge it, be kind to yourself, and it's okay. You're going to be okay. So the next thing would be just understand that you do, what are the signs, right? So what are your signs is, do you crave certain foods uncontrollably? Do you eat past fullness, even when feeling physically uncomfortable? Do you hide your eating habits or feel shame around food? I've had such amazing conversations with people who said, when I was growing up, I had, parents who were always fighting or they were in an abusive situation. The one thing that they felt they could control is their food, right? And so if they ate chips or something sweet, one, they're getting a dopamine hit, but they feel like they can control it. And right. And so that gives them some autonomy that humans want. They want to feel in control of their lives. And that's where the relationship with food, the unhealthy relationship with food starts, right? But it's a very understandable pathway. So if that's the case, again, be kind to yourself and we acknowledge it. They're absolutely food addiction specialists you can speak to about that. But number one is just acknowledge and acceptance. Okay. Number two, let's talk about triggers, right? So we want to understand your triggers. So how do you identify the triggers of the craving and the binge, right, episodes? First of all, is it stress? Is it boredom? Is it certain emotions, certain people, specific environments? So one way to do this is to do some habit charting or habit mapping. And so remember, a habit is a cue, a prompt, and a behavior and a result or reward, right? And so the reward, if your brain is like, okay, the trigger is you're walking through the mall and you smell those delicious, what are they called? Those pretzels. I can't remember. They smell so good. But anyway, so you smell it, prompt trigger, you go and get it, eat it. The reward is, holy moly, that's salty, chewy deliciousness. It's high in fat. Remember that, because the next time we're in the mall, we're coming straight back here, and that'll be the first step. So that is the habit loop, right? So the trigger is the smell, the hunger, whatever the struggle there. Another trigger could be you get an email from a certain person or colleague every day, or someone you don't want to hear from, and it stresses you out. So instead of opening the email and facing it head on, we're like, maybe I'll just put that aside for the moment. I'm just going to go get something to eat. Or you drop by your neighbor, your colleague, your cubicle neighbors next door, and get a handful of M&Ms or some candy out of your drawer. And that is relaxing and calms you down. So think about the triggers, right? So that's the important thing, is first becoming aware that there are habits involved here with food addiction, because with awareness and knowledge comes power. And that is really important. Next is think about different ways that you can make some dietary shifts, right? So is there any way that you could start your day with a healthier meal? So instead of, a drive-through, I don't know, McDonald's or something, and picking up, a fast food breakfast, is there anything you can do beforehand? Maybe make a smoothie and drink that, or do some overnight oats if you're struggling with time. Eat some fruit. Eat a tofu scramble that you made for a batch cooked. Lots of different things. You could do a grain bowl. That's going to be filling. I know people even eat like beans and like almost a dinner for breakfast, right? Because this is high in protein. It's quite satiating, and it really will set your intentions for the day for eating healthier. Again, these are going to be foods that I'm going to always tell you to consume: fruits, veggies, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Start there. So start shifting towards healthier foods, bringing them in, not even necessarily removing other things, saying you can't have, but how can you add more of those healthy foods to your diet? Next, maybe limiting some of it, the more processed sugary drinks. So maybe we can cut back on Starbucks, for example, or instead of, veggies and ranch dip, maybe do veggies and hummus, right? So these are some healthy alternatives. And, it's okay to walk into this slowly. Don't have to be perfect overnight. That sets us up for failure very quickly. So it's okay to gently move into changing your diet. Next is step 4 is develop a healthy relationship with food. How do we do this? Well, we start looking at food and trying to pay attention to our body. So first of all, practice mindful eating, like I mentioned earlier. When you feel the urge to eat something, give yourself space and time to evaluate what's going on and be in touch with the body. Is your stomach growling? Did you eat just an hour ago? If you drank a glass of water, sometimes thirst is telling you that you're hungry. If you drink a glass of water, are you still hungry? So by thinking about these things and gently just observing and doing certain things like a glass of water before you consume something, you'll learn a lot about your body and become more intuitive to the food or the hunger cues that your body is telling you. And again, we really want to just be paying attention to how we're eating, when we're eating, what we're eating, and just do one small thing at a time. If it's like, all I can do is add an apple to my dietary meal plan, or if I feel the urge to eat, I'm going to just eat an apple first. And if I'm still hungry after that, eat something else, fine. There's lots of ways to do this, but just an idea for you. Next is, let's address the underlying issues, right? So that's where, the deeper emotional issues need to be dealt with, like stress, anxiety, depression. This is where professionals will be very helpful, and therapy can be very helpful for you. Maybe also finally consider joining a support group and people who have been and walked down your path, to help you understand and support each other. I found that the group coaching element of my, like, for example, my psychology of weight loss course and my metabolism course, master metabolism and lose weight course, which was beta groups, was glucose masterminds. The group dynamic was essential for the ongoing success of patients. So when we took a break from the group dynamic, people struggled again, but we get back on with our group meetings and people do really well again. So group visits, the group support groups are so helpful. And when you join the psychology of weight loss or the metabolism course I'm going to be launching the next week or so, you get lifetime monthly free group coaching with myself. And I think it's so important to add that and build a strong and loving community. So, okay. So I think really seek professional help if you need it. Be patient and kind to yourself and focus on progress, not perfection. And so I hope you found that helpful. I was really on my heart today to share this. I, try to be very thoughtful in what I bring to you and helpful in terms of actionable items. But I feel like this conversation needs to be further pushed out there, and, not to be ashamed when you're struggling for anything, be it weight loss or anything else in life. So yeah, so there it is, guys. I hope you found this helpful, and I appreciate you being here as always. So I'm sending you love, joy, peace, and gratitude, and abundance and healing, because like I said, we need more of that today than ever. And please, like I've been told and I forgot, so I'm probably gonna get in trouble, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to join the email list, I push out a newsletter every single week, with short 2 to 3 minute reads and a yummy recipe. And I hope you'll find it helpful. Again, thank you if you do opt into the email list, I really want to say thanks, because I know you get a lot of emails, and I will try to make it worth your time to click it, open it, and find it helpful. And please share this if you found this helpful with someone. I would appreciate it. So thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day and weekend. And I'll be back next time. Hopefully something you find helpful. Take care.